Hi there, Nick Dutch here. How's it going? I've just listened to the first couple of minutes of a video by the YouTube user Darwinsgift, and it's called Spiritualist Bullshit. And if I can just click here, I should be able to get a link, which I will hopefully be able to put in a link below so you'll see where I'm coming from. I've only listened to the first couple of minutes of it, but that was basically enough for me to have a bit of a reaction to it. I'm going to play and pause so you can hear some of the audio, and I'm going to criticize some of what I'm hearing. The snippets of audio, which will be included in this, will basically come under fair use because it's basically me criticizing it. So here we go.
Hi Jews. Today I want to talk to you about spiritualism.
Now that should be interesting because essentially spiritualism is quite a fascinating movement in its own right.
And it's a bit of a rant.
Objective point of view time. No.
Because spiritualism pisses me off. Now it's
Well, it could piss you off if you understand it. Okay, if you understand what it's about, then you can have a rational dialogue with the ideas of the people involved in spiritualism. Okay? But you've got to make sure you understand what spiritualism actually is.
a swearing video, so if you don't like swearing,
Well, I do swear rather a lot myself, so I think I'm probably man enough to be able to handle this one.
okay. Have you gone? Good.
No, I'm still here.
Now, spiritualists, spiritualism, it's so fucking annoying. It's
I'm sorry you feel that way.
really, really pisses me off.
Now tell me what you really feel.
And why does it piss me off? Because people seem to assume that spiritualism, unlike a god, unlike a religion, spiritualism doesn't need an explanation.
Well, actually, spiritualism would need an explanation because there must be some kind of rationale for people to have their points of view. And it could be a reason based upon their own emotional structure, or it could be a reason based upon some of the experiences they've had in life, or a curiosity about life, or indeed based upon the writings of some particular individual. So there will always be a reason for a person to have their beliefs or points of view, and there will normally be something which they will regard as being logically consistent, taking into account where they've come from. It is possible to try and criticize the views of an individual who's got views which are spiritualist, so long as you can understand them, you can break them down. But this requires objectivity, which currently I don't think you've got right now, taking into account the tone within this video. But on the other hand, I empathize with that because I also lose the plot once in a while about a few things, and I also, occasionally lose my reason and rationality when it comes to some serious subjects. So, chill, let's see what you got to say.
It doesn't need an explanation because it's spiritualism. It's what? People believing in their inner selves, their spiritual enlightenment, their inner God, all this absolute bullshit.
Well, actually, the phrase absolute bullshit would actually refer to where you're coming from in this particular case. Spiritualism is best defined by the movement post the American Civil War and moving towards the 20th century, which was predominantly to do with the concepts of disembodied spirits and attempting to communicate with them, or indeed building some kind of emotional relationship with them, which is of course a difference to spirituality, which appears to be what you're discussing in this one particular video, which is not necessarily to do with the existence of a spirit or spiritual force. There are different forms of spirituality, some of which actually require no God concept or no spirit concept whatsoever, and is therefore more of a self-developmental school, taking into account people's emotions, emotional states, and getting over issues, and trying to reach a certain level of peace, balance, and calm. Meditation itself, done by someone who is of an atheistic point of view, is often an exercise which is done to bring about calm or rest, and is regarded traditionally as being quite therapeutic to both body and brain. It is an exercise which comes out of spirituality, but can in fact be practiced by people who are what you might consider to be rational, logical, atheistic individuals. Therefore, spirituality does not necessarily require any real connection to a spirit being, or indeed a higher being, unless of course that is taken allegorically to mean a form of higher self within yourself. which is a presupposition, yes, but it is often something which people attempt to reach with the help of reading, learning, growth, contemplation, trying to see things from different points of view, and even using text or mythology to be able to understand themselves from a different point of view through introspection, which is a very important tool for personal growth. Now, what was it you were saying?
And there are several different types of spiritualists. They use...
Well, are you talking about spiritualists, of which there are many different types, or are you talking about spirituality, which is different? Yes, I agree that there are some people who say they're very spiritual, but what they actually mean is they believe in angels or ghosts. But that isn't actually spirituality. That is believing in a form of conscious entity. Spirituality is different and is basically a path of growth. Okay? That's why there's people who say that they're spiritual, but of course don't believe in gods or angels and archangels and so on and so forth.
Use it in nearly every religion. There is somebody who calls himself a guru, for instance, who...
Now, what precisely are you talking about here?
Who would say, perhaps in the Hindu religion, but you also find these sort of Buddhist gurus as well, and they're all calling themselves spiritualists, and they have absolutely no evidence in the same way that...
Sorry, evidence of what? You're using the word spiritualist, not spirituality, when to the most part you appear to be talking about spirituality. This suggests you don't understand the meanings of the words that you're using. Did Darwin understand the meanings of the words he was using? I think so.
Every other religion doesn't. But what they like to do is, and I think it's because mainly that they don't follow a major religion, but they still want to be quite important.
I don't think it's a question of importance. I think it's actually a question of an attempt to be rather humble. Yes, some people do blow this up to the point of trying to create a new religion, and some are very arrogant. Indeed, there are some individuals I used to know who regarded themselves as spiritual, who were in fact so egotistical and arrogant and aggressive with their values, they really turned my nose up. But on the other hand, that isn't necessarily always the way, because some people are open to different ideas, different opinions, and they demonstrate their openness through being humble to the fact that they don't know all that much. So being spiritual, or indeed in some cases being a spiritualist, does not necessarily mean to say that they want to somehow be important. There are some people who've got some deep-rooted psychological problems, many of whom I've come across in my ancient past, so to speak, who did actually want to consider themselves to be important, and these are the people who are attempting to be cult leaders. And in my personal estimation, they're in fact rather egregious, unpleasant individuals. But they aren't necessarily spiritualists, they aren't necessarily spiritual. They are people who are trying to get a following, and they're doing so through undesirable tactics. Maybe those are the people you're disagreeing with, but essentially just ranting on about, oh, spiritualists are all this, that, and the other, actually shows a rather narrow-minded perspective from your point of view, and an inability to take into account a broader demographic of society.
So they have this way of making themselves some sort of guru. So what am I actually having a go at? Well, have a look at this guy, for instance. There's a small clip, and have a quick look at this.
Now, he's showing an introduction to a video called In the World of But Not of It, which appears to be very similar to a book cover, and the person who's on it is Dr. David R. Hawkins, and I presume that's someone who might actually have a postgraduate qualification, but is turning their attention towards, is quite simply building a form of self-development cult. So that is quite obvious to anyone who can look at the image. Alright, so they're a would-be cult leader. Why would you want to be bothered with someone like this? I don't see the point. Anyway, that's enough of my rambles. When you come across irrationality, it's not just from New Agers, spiritualists, pagans, young earth creationists, fundamentalists. It can be from anyone, and even a normal, rational, educated individual can have moments of complete and utter rank fucking stupidity.